Good evening. I am recording this on August 30th. Right now it is 11:11 p.m. Let's go. Kind of hasn't been that crazy of a news week this week in North Carolina, but I will start out with something positive. Shout out to Sloan Rasmuth. She's been sounding the alarm on this HB 67 issue. And though we have a very small audience right now, we have been ringing the bell as well. She's really been the spearhead for this, though, and she's really getting the word out there. So just wanted to give her a shout out. Sloan there. A lot of good work on that. Now, there have been a couple big stories this week. We will cover some of them, and if we have enough time, we'll get into some connections that I'm starting to find with previous bills that were passed that benefited Blue Cross Blue Shield and how they are connecting to HB 67. Long story short, we'll say long game. But let's get into the first story that was pretty crazy. This is coming out of Wilmington this week. This is not a good look for the GOP. Not a good look. So we'll see how they distance themselves or work around this one anyways. But the story here is James Yokley Jr. here. He's the Republican chair of the NC County Elections Board, and he also serves on the Surrey County Board of Elections as a chair there as well. He is being charged with contaminating food, felony possession of a Schedule I narcotic, and felony child abuse. After there were conflicting stories out there, but this is coming from WRAL News. His granddaughter and her friend were driving and riding in his car that he was in. He goes into Dairy Queen, comes back out with the ice cream, and somehow the three of them ended up at a gas station where the granddaughter and friend had flagged down paramedics who then called police because they found something in the blizzards. Now, when the police checked the surveillance camera of Dairy Queen, they caught James here double dipping, if you will. He put it in there himself. Like, what an idiot. And what was going on? What was he doing? This is a strange story. And, so kind of following this one a little bit, this is kind of just on the radar. We're going to see what the fallout is from this. I haven't done the deep dive on this because I'll be honest with you. And I was kind of like even on the fence of even, and we'll get to it. But on the stabbing in Charlotte, man, talk about a rabbit hole. Stuff is crazy on that. So I haven't got to do a deep dive on James yet. But spiking the ice cream with MDMA and cocaine is what he did, an MDMA cocaine press pill. Now, before I researched it, I figured that was maybe some kind of like date rape concoction. Okay. But from what the internet is saying is that basically just like lowers inhibitions and could create memory gaps, but creates super high states of euphoria. So I'm not sure what his intent was with his granddaughter and her friend, but this is definitely odd. That's the biggest update on that story there. And again, this is coming out of Wilmington is where it happened. Now, moving on though. This right here, as many of you heard, if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you heard about this. This rabbit hole gets crazy. Okay. Now we'll just start with the basics first, okay? Let me get my old notepad up here. All right, so Decarlos Brown Jr., 34, was arrested for first-degree murder after he stabbed here Iryna Zarutska. Some sources have her listed as 22. Other sources have her listed as 23. Now, excuse me. The police statement states that the security camera footage shows that Brown entered the rail car rather, sits down in front of Iryna, and after a few seconds, he just stands up, wields a knife, stabs her 3 times in the neck, and walks off. And then he's taken to the hospital with a cut on his hand and then booked for murder. What a weird, random story. You know what I mean? Like, and it happened, so I'm not saying it's a story, but what a random, random event, right? Okay, so now let's peel back these layers a little bit. Earlier in the year, Brown, who by all accounts is technically a career criminal, though when I checked out his arrest records, there's a lot of arrests that have no reason for the arrest. So I'm not sure what all those are, but there are some violent charges on his record. And this is kind of like out of nowhere, though, because he's had some trespassing charges over the last few years, and then bam, does this. Now, let me get back to it. So earlier in the year, he calls 911 multiple times and ends up getting arrested for abusing the 911 system over this. But he calls 911 repeatedly, and he states that someone had put a man-made device in him that was controlling his thoughts, his actions, and what he ate and how he spoke. Now you chalk that up to schizophrenia, and that's what I did too. Okay. But then I just got to doing a little looking on this. I'm going to try to make this flow easily to see here. So let's see how we make this happen here. Okay. So now follow me on this. We have Iryna here, who the backstory on her is 22 or 23 years old. She moved here from Ukraine after Russia began invading Ukraine. One source has her going to RCCC Roran Cabreras for 2 years, but I could not find anything that stated that. But so she's here in North Carolina, in Charlotte. So, anywhoosins. Now, the event happens, right? And there's a GoFundMe set up where the GoFundMe's goal is $40,000. These are the 2 names associated with this GoFundMe. We have a Eugenia Rush from Mooresville and a Frank Haskell. Excuse me. Okay, here's where the layer gets a little deeper. And man, I was like on the fence about even showing this, but this is I feel like this might be a little there's some smoke here, okay? And you tell me if I'm just way off base. Okay, so Rush, Haskell, Mooresville, okay? Now when you search up Frank Haskell, period, you get a whole bunch on this guy here, Frank Haskell, who was born in 1828. And you see there, Battle of Gettysburg. He was a major, not a major guy in there, but he had some stuff he did in Gettysburg, and then he wrote a book on Gettysburg, 1828. Now, when I try to find a Frank Haskell rather, in North Carolina, like I don't find anybody. I found one guy who passed away in 2016. Rest in peace. Anything off of that just returned back this Gettysburg guy. And it's like, okay, it's whatever. Maybe it's an alias. But Frank Haskell, specific to Gettysburg, okay? Now, I'm reading the report from New York Post, and there's a comment left on there that says General Lee should have listened to Longstreet at Gettysburg. We wouldn't have this problem today. This is from an Oliver K. Weird. I don't believe in coincidences, so that was a small flag in my brain right there. Like, okay, this is weird. What are the chances? Okay. But that's all I've got on Frank. Now, back to the Iryna Rush from Mooresville, the woman from Mooresville, who is the organizer of the GoFundMe. Now, doing a background run on her turns back this address of, and I'll probably blur that out in post. So there's an address there. And all you've got to know is that that address will match this address here in a second. Let me zoom out. I'm sorry. I want you guys to be able to see this, but I am 500% zoomed in right now, and I don't know where I'm going with my map here. First, though, coming down from Mrs. Rush, it shows some common emails there, and I'll blur those out in post. But these are emails that popped up underneath her name on a public search, okay? Now, one of the emails here that could be hers is a Lonnie Rush. Now, when you search up Lonnie Rush, who's at the same address as Iryna Rush, comes back with 76 possible emails. And these range from at AOL.com, which that's whatever. But then he's got specific email addresses at Ameritrade, Tuscany, Las Vegas Resorts. And then he's got specific company emails with a company called Caring. This is this Lonnie Rush guy. Now, Caring also does a thing called the Caring Foundation, where their focus, this is their mission statement here. Basically, 1 out of 3 women worldwide is a victim of violence during her lifetime. Since its creation in 2008, Caring Foundation has made this critical issue the focus of its combat by supporting survivors, rolling out prevention initiatives, and worldwide mobilization. You can redress that if you'd like. Now, this is where shit gets a little spicy. Okay. So the woman who's organizing the GoFundMe for the lady who tragically lost her life in Charlotte is married to this person who has multiple business emails with Caring. Caring owns, hit the wrong button, owns Balenciaga, and everybody remembers the Balenciaga scandal. They don't just own Balenciaga. They own a few high-end brands, also Gucci, but they're based out of France. And this is the chairman and CEO of Caring, Francois Pignon, who has, deep ties in high society art and you name it. Very, very, very influential, wealthy figure. Fun fact, he was married to Selma Hayek. It's like, okay, whoa, what's going on? That's what I'm saying. Why are all these people connected? Caring has shops set up in Charlotte. Okay, so they have a base in Charlotte. And I didn't put this on this mind map, but there's a woman that Iryna did she modeled makeup for one time on Instagram that we found, but on sources from Russian servers, it states that like she was a model of hers and worked for her. Well, this woman, another male, and a few other people involved and connected to Caring have this operation that goes from Philadelphia, Charlotte, Manhattan. And I'm there's just like this web, and I've barely scratched the surface, but I almost couldn't not share this because this is too many coincidences. So what am I getting at? So there's literally three possibilities, 3 outcomes, if you will, on why this happened. First, and this, hey, we're just being real here, though. I'm a real dude. I'm not paid by anybody to do this. I do this because I'm a father now, And we live in North Carolina, and their future and everybody else's children's future matters to me. Soapbox is off the soapbox. Back onto this. It's just, I don't know. The three reasons, that's what I was getting at, is first, either this is, and I hate to say it, but it does happen. So, I'm saying we're all adults here. This could be a false flag to help push the public to be okay with opening up the asylums that Trump has been pushing for the past couple of weeks or so. Because one little caveat about this whole thing is, in the beginning, I told you that Brown was arrested for abusing the 911 system over saying that there was something inside him that was controlling his thoughts and actions. Well, where the plot thickens. His public defender, as well as his mother, which the article on the mother I cannot find anymore. So if you're watching this and you've happened to come across the article that has his mother's interview, please send it. Hey, perfect segue real quick before we move off of this. Again, small operation, but we're going to stay at it. We're going to grow. If you have a tip, this is literally like super anonymous. You don't have to sign up for nothing, do anything. You literally just go there and you send your anonymous tip. If you have something you want to say anonymously or tip, there's a link. Actually, there it is. We can do that. But back to that there. So yeah, drop me that interview if you found that. Charlotte's turned down having Brown admitted to a psychiatric facility. So there could be, for argument number one here, there could be public sentiment because this could have been avoided if he was in an asylum that isn't open now, but could be. Number two, why this happened. Brown said what he said. Now, I subscribe to that probably did not happen, okay? But say it did. I don't know how far deep into, government and military and all that jazz you are, but I like Manchurian Candidates and MK and Monarch. That's all very, very, very real stuff. You know, just like you've seen possibly that, I don't even know how to explain this properly. There's just code words out there. I'll leave it at that. We won't get too spurgy on all this shit. Excuse me. I'll have to edit that out. But say that did or didn't happen. Take Brown out of the situation here. Knowing what we know about the Balenciaga thing, and especially if you did any kind of deep dive from back a couple years ago when that was all breaking, what a messy, messy rabbit hole that whole thing is. And what if Iryna here was, for whatever reason, dispatched from the operation? I still don't know how Brown ties into it. Third reason this happened. It literally just happened because it's random as shit. I'll have to edit that out too. My bad. I will watch the language because we can watch this around all ages. But anywho's, there's the three things. I just wanted to share with you guys this. Because again, could be nothing. Could be something though. It's just a lot of coincidences, and I subscribe to a coincidence is not real. So when I run into multiple coincidences, I'm like, whoa, got a little bit of a glow effect here, if you will. But yeah, so that's that on that. And as far as the latest I've heard is that Brown is still in holding. I don't think he's gone in front of a judge yet. Now, wrong thing. Bow. Boom. So that is an update on that situation down in Charlotte. Now, this was something I wanted to touch on too. Let me find this. This was an article that I found And I thought it was a pretty solid read. And I just wanted to check, I just wanted to share this with you guys. This comes from the John Locke organization. This is a letter in Elections and Public Integrity. It states, it was rather titled, North Carolina has thousands of bad voter registrations. I haven't gotten to look on this too much because I got kind of steered away on these coincidences on the last story there. I'm going to read this, though. This comes from, this is by Dr. Andy Jackson. He's the director of the Civitas Center for Public Integrity at the John Locke Foundation. This was August 13th. It was published. It says the Public Interest Legal Foundation, a nonprofit law firm dedicated to election integrity, sent a letter to the North Carolina State Board of Elections on August 4th that highlighted several longstanding problems with our state's voter rolls, affecting tens of thousands of voter registrations. The John Locke Foundation has advocated for correcting many of those problems. It continues, hopefully the new leadership at the SBE will take them seriously. Below, they share some of the problems. Here's the first one. 29,414 interstate duplicate registrants. PILF compared North Carolina voter rolls to those in California, Florida, Maine, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. It found 17,817 matching records between North Carolina and Florida alone. PILF's record matching system appears to be something the SBE could duplicate. And they go on a little bit further on that. And here's another 12,700 plus same address duplicate registrants. They continue. PILF also found many registrations that matched exactly on the address and date of birth and had minor variations with the name. The foundation highlights 12,700 plus instances of duplicated and triplicated registrants where variations in name spelling or nicknames have generated duplications at same residential addresses. The foundation studies same address duplicates using the following common patterns of duplication, assuming perfectly matched date of births. Perfect matches potentially due to missing social security data, hyphenated or married name confusion, typographical errors in the last name and or the first name. States PILF has previously reached out to county boards with the data, but the problem has persisted. Other groups have tried to get duplicate registration to county boards, but have been frustrated by SBE policy that county board initiated challenges shall not be based on lists provided by outside groups or individuals. They also found 230 inter-county duplicates. Your old voter registration is supposed to be canceled when you move to a new county, but PILF found that sometimes it is not. Within the sample of 230, they've seen 141 pairs are active/active, and 89 pairs are active/inactive status. They continue. Every voter is supposed to have a unique NCID number that follows them if they move to a new county. However, that process does not always work, as seen in the case of North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Allison Riggs, who recently received a different NCID number each time she registered in a new county. They also found 613 placeholder fictitious dates of birth. They state from the letter. Lastly, the foundation's latest count shows at least 613 registrants in North Carolina are flagged for having placeholder or potentially false dates of birth in the public record. As you know, holding fictitious dates of birth risks complicating future voter registration list maintenance efforts when you cannot match these dates to resources like the Social Security Death Index, SSDI, and others. The foundation is pleased to report on an effective solution to replace these placeholders with accurate data. And if you're interested in reading more on that, that is at the johnlocke.org website. And that is a recent article from them titled Letter. North Carolina has thousands of bad voter registrations. Pretty wild stuff here. So, hopefully they're going to get the election cleaned up and, we can actually truly trust the process. So we'll see. Now, I get this is really going to be more of a teaser because the deep dive has not started on this. But on the next episode, we're for sure going to look at these HB 346 and HB 67 connections. If you're not familiar, HB 346 was a bill that changed how Blue Cross and Blue Shield can operate. And around the same time, too, Blue Cross Blue Shield picked up 55 FastMed locations, mostly in rural areas. HB 67 affected who the worst, or will rather affect who the worst? Rural communities. So, hey, we got a little bit of smoke there too. But hey, we're going to work on keeping these at like 30-minute episodes. So again, little teaser for the next episode. If you watch this, drop a comment. Let me know you watched it. Like it, subscribe it, to it, do it, all that good jazz, all that good stuff. Again, special shout out to Sloan. Appreciate the recognition. That was really awesome. Thank you so much. Made me feel all warm and fuzzy. But on that note, that is it for episode 2. Let's go, dude. Again, drop your comments. And one more time before we get off of here, if you have any kind of tip that you just want to put out there, again, I'm not beholden to anybody. So I literally can and will talk about whatever I'd like to talk about when it comes to this stuff. Again, we'll stay factually based, obviously, with my opinion and whatnot, but I will not. I like to go through primary sources and do research, and I like to have due diligence on things. I will say this: the stabbing in Charlotte thing. If I had more time with it, I'd probably have more connections found, but that's neither here nor there. But again, thank you so much for watching this episode, especially if you've got this far. You are a legend, and I really appreciate you. But coming to you from North Carolina, now leaving stream in North Carolina. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much. And if you watch this tonight or at night, have a good evening. And if you're watching this during the day, continue to have a great day. And we'll leave on one last positive note. Just remember, sometimes you might be the only light in somebody's day. So spread a little bit of happiness today if you're watching this during the day. If you're watching it at night, you're good. You did what you could do, right? Anyways, be good until the next episode.